It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Chinedu was repairing an old motorcycle outside his small workshop. Sweat covered his face as he tightened the last bolt. Suddenly his phone rang. "Hello, is this Mr. Chinedu?" "Yes, who's speaking?" "I'm calling from City General Hospital. Your son has been brought to our hospital. Please come immediately." The phone slipped from Chinedu's trembling hand. Without locking his workshop, he jumped onto his motorcycle and raced toward the hospital, praying with every breath, "God, please watch over my son."
The doctor's expression was serious. "Mr. Chinedu," he said softly, "we did everything we could for your son. I'm very sorry." Chinedu stood frozen. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. "No," he whispered. "There must be some mistake." The doctor gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Chinedu sat beside his son, held his hand, and whispered, "You promised you'd take care of me when I grew old. Why did you leave so soon?" News of the tragedy spread quickly through the neighborhood. Friends, relatives, and church members gathered at Chinedu's home. Some brought food. Others simply sat beside him in silence. The house that was once filled with laughter had become a place of tears. As funeral arrangements began, Chinedu couldn't stop looking at his son's photographs. Every picture reminded him of happier days. His son had always been kind, always willing to help anyone in need. Late that evening, a hospital nurse arrived carrying a small brown envelope. "Mr. Chinedu," she said gently, "we found this among your son's personal belongings. It has your name written on it." Chinedu took the envelope with shaking hands, but he couldn't bring himself to open it. He placed it on the table beside his son's photograph, not knowing. The night before the funeral, sleep never came. Chinedu sat alone in the living room, holding one of his son's old school photographs. Tears filled his eyes as memories came rushing back. He remembered the day his son learned to ride a bicycle, the day he graduated from secondary school, and the day he proudly said, "Dad, one day I'll make you proud." Chinedu buried his face in his hands. "You already made me proud, my son. I just didn't tell you enough." On the table beside him, the brown envelope remained unopened. He looked at it several times, but every time he reached for it, his grief stopped him. Outside, the rain continued to fall, and morning drew closer, bringing with it the day he feared the most, the day he would say his final goodbye. The morning of the funeral arrived. Dark clouds covered the sky, as if even heaven was mourning. Family members and close friends gathered quietly, their faces filled with sorrow. The small white coffin rested beneath a canopy, surrounded by fresh flowers. One by one, people stepped forward to share memories of Chinedu's son. He was always respectful. He never refused to help anyone. The world has lost a truly good young man. Chinedu listened in silence, holding back tears that refused to stop. Just as the pastor stood up to begin the final prayer, Chinedu's older sister walked over to him, holding the same brown envelope. She gently placed it in his hands and whispered, "Your son wanted you to read this. Please." Chinedu unfolded the letter. His hands trembled as he recognized his son's handwriting. He took a deep breath and began to read. "Dear Dad, if you're reading this, it means something has happened to me. First, please don't blame yourself. You gave me everything a son could ever ask for. Your love, your sacrifices, and your prayers made me the man I became. There is one secret I never told you. A few months ago, I registered as an organ donor. I remembered the little boy who died in our neighborhood because no matching donor was found. That day, I promised myself, if anything ever happened to me, I wanted someone else to have another chance to live. Chinedu stopped reading. His tears fell onto the letter. The entire funeral ground fell silent.
Chinedu wiped the tears from his eyes. Then he continued reading. Dad, I know this decision won't be easy. I know you'll want to keep every part of me close to your heart. But if my heart can help another father hear his child laugh again, if my eyes can help someone see the beauty of the world, if my kidneys can give another family more time with the person they love, then please, let my life become someone else's miracle. Chinedu could no longer hold back his tears. He looked at the white coffin, then at the faces of his family. Slowly, he folded the letter, turned to the pastor, and said with a trembling voice, "My son's final wish must be honored." The entire gathering stood in stunned silence. Some began to cry, not because they didn't understand, but because they finally did.
Within minutes, the funeral was respectfully postponed. Doctors and transplant specialists were contacted immediately. Chinedu signed the consent forms, even though every signature felt like another goodbye. Over the next few hours, his son's final wish became a reality. A young mother who had been waiting months for a life-saving transplant received a second chance. A teenage boy who was slowly losing his eyesight was given new hope. Another father, who had been praying for a miracle every single day, finally received the call that changed his family's future. Chinedu still carried the pain of losing his son. But deep inside, he found comfort in one simple truth. 3 months later, Chinedu received an unexpected phone call from the hospital.
Mr. Chinedu, the doctor said, there is someone who has been praying to meet you. A few days later, Chinedu returned to the same hospital. But this time, it wasn't a place filled only with sorrow. In the waiting room, a young boy ran into his mother's arms, smiling from ear to ear. The doctor gently turned to Chinedu and said, "This little boy is alive today because of your son's gift." The boy's mother walked over. Tears filled her eyes as she held Chinedu's hands. "There are no words that can repay what your family has done," she whispered. Chinedu looked at the little boy, and for the first time since losing his son, he smiled through his tears.
6 months later, Chinedu stood quietly beneath a large tree, holding a framed photograph of his son. The pain of losing him had never disappeared, but neither had his pride. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "You kept your promise, my son. You made the world a better place." That same day, 3 different families celebrated birthdays, laughed together, and looked forward to tomorrow, because one young man chose to give others the gift of life. Chinedu gently smiled, knowing that although his son's journey had ended, his kindness would live on. In every heartbeat, every smile, and every tomorrow he helped create. Sometimes, the greatest miracle isn't escaping death.
It's giving someone else the chance to truly live. Remember, every choice has a story. What story will your choices tell?